Authorities have long suspected that Barry Morphew chased Suzanne Morphew around their house after somehow injecting her with the BAM compound. Well, that somehow was possibly by shooting the dart as a projectile. And that is according to an article in CBS.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't feel that my mind fills up into a creature and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear.
Hello from Venaculas, Mozambique in southeastern Africa, and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science. In this episode, we're going to deal with, firstly, the chemical compound, the fact that it was metabolized for some time after injection, and also the fact that Suzanne Morphew was moved twice. If you're finding this analysis worthwhile, please hit the thanks button, and let's get started. Well, poor Suzanne, after she was exposed to BAM, sedation would have taken several minutes. And as the sedative took effect, she would become immobile and quite helpless, allowing her killer not only to the free rein to do what he intended, but plenty of time to do so, perhaps while talking to her as well. The crack in the door frame, you can see it in this image, could obviously have been made during a period when Suzanne had been freshly darted, was still mobile, and perhaps tried to close the door and lock herself in the room. It was really a battle against time. According to CBS, the indictment is unequivocal. Suzanne Morphew's bones were moved to that location after her body had decomposed elsewhere, meaning it had to have been moved at least twice after her murder. She was not initially killed in the San Luis Valley, Ridenour said. She was moved there. That was not her first grave. This is an interesting intertextuality to the McCann case. I don't know why people assume where a body is found is where someone was murdered. That clearly wasn't the case at Survey 319 in the Chris Watts case, in terms of Shanann, although it appears that is what happened to Bella and Cece. Dan R. Ridenour, who lives in the Salida area of Colorado where the Morphews lived when Suzanne Morphew went missing, is the news director and operations manager of the Heart of the Rockies radio. This is according to CBS. He told 48 Hours that it was hard to make sense of the indictment's allegations against Barry Morphew. Why would he do that, Ridenour asked. Why would he move the body? Well, isn't it obvious? Firstly, there's an effort to move the body as far as possible from ground zero, where most of the searches are focused. Secondly, there is an effort to move the body to a better area in general, an area where it is either less likely to be found, which proved not to be the case here, or if it is found, will be found in such a state and in such a context that the authorities won't know whose remains they belong to, which also proved not to be the case. According to CBS, for one thing, Ridenour noted that Barry Morphew has been under heavy scrutiny since Suzanne Morphew was reported missing. There is not a more recognizable face in Salida than Barry Morphew, Ridenour said. Is he going to take the chance and drive 70 miles to the south and dig a shallow grave? There are too many questions. Now, although I think he's asking the right question, I don't think he's really dealing with it in a very comprehensive way. He's thinking about it, but he's not thinking about it nearly enough. It is an excellent question, and it was one that was fielded with regard to the McCanns as well. If they did move the body, how could they do so if they were under constant scrutiny by the media? Of course, a serious question requires serious analysis, and clearly there are a few scenarios that can make surreptitious disposal possible, even if one is under scrutiny. The first thing to consider is that a vehicle had to have been used. Second, if a vehicle was used, someone else could have used it, or for that matter, the perpetrator could have used a different vehicle, a rental, as we saw in the Letitia Store case, a work vehicle, as we saw in the Chris Watts case, or simply a new vehicle no one knew about, such as the boat in the Scott Peterson case. Conversely, the perpetrator could have asked someone else to move the remains on their behalf, a family member, an employee. This latter scenario involves huge risk, and although a lot of people tend to think that, yes, that's the solution, it's very unlikely. Of course, another scenario emerges, which is that the perpetrator disguises what he is doing, and what is he doing is disposing of a body, while apparently doing something else, something innocent, such as going to work. That's how Chris Watts did it. He hid the bodies while pretending to go to work, which involved visiting a well site, or playing golf, or going hunting, or driving somewhere to put up posters, as we saw in the McCann case. The disposal needs to be quick and slightly careless, precisely because the perpetrator is being watched or monitored. Think about Watts' work truck, which is monitored by his company Anadarko, and his home by the Vivint security system. So if they are going to do this, it must be hidden within the fabric of something ordinary that they seem to be doing anyway. Does that make sense? According to CBS, 48 Hours correspondent Peter Van Sant updates the case in the Suzanne Morphew case, Nothing is What It Seems. That is today, Saturday, July 5th at, I think is it 8 p.m. Central on CBS and streaming on Paramount+. Aya Gruber, a law professor at the University of the Southern California School of Law, says this case is incredibly unique. When you started to dig a little deeper, nothing is what it seems. So, yeah, that is airing today, and so make sure you catch that, the Suzanne Morphew case, Nothing is What It Seems. Next, we will be re-examining the evidence in this particular case. Right, I'm not going to take it further than that. I will just leave you guys, first of all, wishing you guys a happy Memorial Day weekend, wherever you are in the States. And then I'll leave you guys with some footage of where I am, Vinaculo, Mozambique. Just some of the footage that I've taken over here. Enjoy, have a great weekend, and I'll see you guys next time.